What's up guys, my name's Ace and welcome to Cosplay Critiques. Today we're going to be going more in depth on how to critique and how to critique others' work in a constructive manner. Now I said this in my intro video, but I wanted to list my credentials here as well. I have a BFA in Sculpture and Fine Metals from East Carolina University and was a teaching assistant in those fields during my years in the fine arts. In those years, I've experienced how invaluable constructive criticism was to improving my own work, such as my sculpture, my jewelry, and also my cosplays. So with the formalities out of the way, what exactly is a critique? A critique by definition is a detailed analysis or assessment of something. So in cosplay, a critique will be an analysis of technique, craft, and overall composition of the work. For technique, we will determine how they made something and how they could have done it differently if needed. Craft is the overall cleanliness of the cosplay, such as glue seams, texture, paint, and many other things. And finally, composition will be if a photo looks professionally done, I'll critique the photo based on things like rule of thirds, symmetrical, asymmetrical balance, and overall composition. Now I want to point out that I'm critiquing the work, not the person. Try to never take a critique personally. Talking about and receiving a critique is something you really have to decide to do to better yourself. It's not natural for us to want to critique and hear things that are possibly wrong with our work. And it's hard to not be defensive, but the second you become defensive, this transfer of knowledge that we're trying to achieve becomes lost. I know that most people don't like being critiqued, but it's honestly something that's the best thing you can do as an artist. With critiques, you don't have to take everything someone says in. Some critiques can be less helpful than others, because not everyone may get what you're trying to go for in your piece, be it a color design, or texture change, or even a fabric choice. Deviations can and will occur if you're trying to go for a photorealistic version of your character. If they say, "I don't like that color," you can choose to ignore that. Find comments that seem the most helpful to you at the time, and really analyze them. This will give you the most benefit to your craft. Making mistakes and learning from them is so important as a creator. You can learn so much more from a failed attempt than a successful one if those mistakes are corrected. And sometimes we need an outside perspective to point out those mistakes because we could be working on a cosplay for dozens of hours and our view can be skewed. If you get a fresh pair of eyes, you can see a perspective on your work that you just couldn't see before, and it can just be enlightening. Also, getting fresh eyes helps because sometimes things you see as big mistakes aren't actually big mistakes at all and only you see them. I'm extremely guilty of this. I always go to others' opinions to see what I can change before my final product. It's hard to have perspective on your work, and by submitting it for critique, it opens up a whole new perspective for you that you can learn from. Here are some questions you can ask yourself to help with your critiques. What qualities of the work make you feel like it's a success or a failure? Compare it with other works that you feel are good or not so great. See what they did differently, see what you can do differently. Comparison is not a bad thing, as long as it adds value to you, the maker. Try to avoid negative comparisons, such as, "Their work is so much better than mine, I'll never be that good." These thoughts are intrusive and harmful. I'm guilty of this as well, but just know, keep yourself grounded, and you will eventually achieve the level of expertise you want with time. And you know, while you're on Instagram, on Twitter, Tumblr, whatever social media you use, take a second. Don't just like and scroll down, zoom into the areas that you like. Figure out and analyze exactly what you like about these. See what they did to create the areas you're interested in, whether it be texture, colors, or the fabric that they're using. Really analyze and see what you're looking at. By critiquing others' work, you're also generating new ideas and techniques for yourself that you may not have thought of before. If you see something interesting, but you don't comment or send a DM, then that doesn't help you or the other person grow. When critiquing others' work, use what we call a compliment sandwich. That's when you take a good point and then follow up with a point that can be improved upon, and then ends with another good point. This doesn't make you seem as harsh when going and talking about others' work. You don't want to come off as just another internet troll. Start by letting the creator know you like what they did, but you saw something was off and wanted to inquire about it. And possibly even follow up something you enjoyed about the cosplay that you may not have thought to inquire about. Also, avoid using words like good, great, or awesome. One of the first things I learned when critiquing was try not to say things like, "I like this," or "I don't like this." Seeing words like "great job," or "awesome work," or "great" but the words are essentially empty and don't provide any substance to your work. Say instead what aspects you liked about the work, such as great job on the glue seams, or even awesome work on the paint job. These words have more substance and let you know what parts you did well on. Now, if you see something they did, but you don't know how they did it, ask. Ask about their process, or what they learned, or even who they learned from. Communication is key to growth. Now, progress on work is slightly harder to critique. We call this a progress critique in the art world, and these are my favorite critiques. A progress critique can drastically change the ideas and progress of your work because midway you can reevaluate all the techniques and ideas that you've learned from new people. An in-progress critique can drastically change the final result because you can evaluate and change midway through a piece to alter your final result. Adding a new technique midway through can also just benefit most pieces. Now, when critiquing an OC or original creation, things become slightly different. We can treat these works more like we do in the art world due to the design and ideas being directly made from the original creator. Ask things like, how did they get this idea for the character? Or what inspirations did you have? What life experiences altered this character in the way that it did? Asking things such as, where did they get their ideas for the character? Or what inspirations did they have? Are great ways to start a crit conversation. Ask what personal stories influenced their inspirations. Or what stories they may have from their life, what background research they've done. Ask what stories in their life have influenced their character. Ask what background research they may have done. All of these things can be used in a critique. And possibly give examples of your own characters if need be. I hope this video helped clear up or even made you think differently about critiques. And just remember, critiques are just a transfer of knowledge. Don't let them get to you, take what you need and leave the rest behind. Thanks everyone for watching. If you'd like to submit your cosplay for critique, comment or check the description below. If you like what you saw, subscribe and hit the bell icon to see my weekly videos. Again, thanks for watching and I'll see y'all in the next one.